This is a presentation of how the closure of the Great Highway and attempts to commercialize it have negatively impacted our national park, the wildlife sanctuary existing on the sand dunes within the boundaries of the park, and the nearby environment. The ongoing destruction is very real to those of us living close to it. The observations of our families, neighbors, and friends who have homes, apartments, and businesses along the streets closest to the Great Highway are what convinces us that there is less foot traffic on and damage to the sand dunes when the Great Highway is open to traffic and the general public is confined to crossing only via the designated paved crosswalks to and from the beach than when it is closed to vehicles. The heavy influx of tourists and others to the Great Highway is destroying the wildlife sanctuary existing in the sand dunes between Lincoln and Sloat on the west side of the Great Highway. The dunes are located within the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, our national park. The snowy plovers and endangered species use the dunes as their nesting grounds. Dogs are prohibited from being on the dunes off-leash during most months of the year to protect them. Sadly, it is now the foot traffic that is killing their nesting grounds. When foot traffic replaces motor vehicle traffic on the highway, pedestrians with their children and pets have no boundaries and escalate the erosion of this sacred area. Instead of using the 7 designated paved crosswalks to get from their cars to the beach, they trample from their parking spaces on the lower Great Highway over the city's landscaping, over the 4 closed lanes and median of the Upper Great Highway, continuing on to the fragile dunes. They either forge new social paths over the dunes as their new routes to the beach, or they set up chairs, umbrellas, park bicycles, and spread out blankets. There they picnic, discard litter, allow their kids to slide down the dunes on cardboard sleds, flattening and killing the seagrasses. If you live here, it's heartbreaking to watch. Since the closure of the Great Highway, the sand dunes are now sprinkled with homeless encampments. Among the garbage left behind are plastic bags, mattresses, bottles, and needles. One of the major strategies to permanently close the Great Highway is to claim that there is an overwhelming public desire to keep it car-free and used exclusively for bicyclists. To this end, Rec and Park installed devices on the highway to count the number of highway users only when vehicles are prohibited. To achieve high numbers of users, Rec and Park counts as normal monthly usage the heavily advertised, citywide, one-time special events that draw hundreds to the area for a few hours. Think marches for Black Lives Matter, Asians Against Hate, a Halloween event, a rally, bicycle and foot races, where if you closed any street anywhere in San Francisco for these purposes, you'd get unusually high numbers with any event that draws large numbers of pedestrians to the highway. And these are happening 1 or 2 times monthly, if not more often. The dunes are inevitably used as literal stomping grounds. The weekend following our victory to not extend the food truck pilot program, Mayor Breed chose the Great Highway as the location for her event, Love Letters to San Francisco, where a jazzmobile was allowed on the highway. On a following weekend, a Lunar New Year celebration was held on the highway between Taravel and Vicente, and one of the attractions was to teach how to make and fly a kite. This was held on top of the sand dunes on the protected wildlife sanctuary. Kites can be flown on the beach. This lack of care and respect for the existing peaceful environment is being done on purpose by groups advocating for a concrete bicycle way. The dunes are being eroded. They have more than 90 new social paths on them since the highway's closure. Phil Ginsberg, Rec and Park's general manager, wants to line the Great Highway with food trucks, vendors, billboards, signs, and nationally advertise it as a tourist attraction. He was able to get it advertised in the New York Times as a destination zone for recreation. He suddenly instituted a 3-month pilot program where he solicited food trucks to do business on the Great Highway during weekends. The owners of food trucks are required to clean up debris left behind within 100 feet of their trucks. They are not required to clean up as far away as the sand dunes. People carried away their food and drinks in containers after purchases from the food truck, and these were found discarded on the sand dunes, adding to the degradation of the area. On February 3, 2022, San Francisco Supervisor Gordon Marr and Rec and Park held a meeting with local merchants doing business near the highway to get feedback from them regarding their feelings about food trucks, and Rec and Parks offered to erect signs advertising their businesses on the Great Highway. They were unanimously opposed to both. After hearing this, instead of agreeing to permanently discontinue the pilot, Rec and Park announced that they are temporarily putting it on hold until they do more outreach to other different merchants in the community. This is what is done when the response they want is not achieved. The Great Highway between Lincoln Way and Sloat Boulevard was and is the safest road in San Francisco, with a non-stop 4-minute drive between the two 4-lane roads. Even if you catch a traffic light during the 2-mile ride, it rarely takes more than 5 minutes to drive end to end. This easy, safe ride is due to timed traffic lights, no cross-vehicular traffic, and 7 very wide, brightly painted paved crosswalks for pedestrians to walk from the lower Great Highway to the beach and back. Vehicles, bicyclists, and pedestrians once all shared this space. It has a 10-foot wide paved pedestrian path that has 4 feet of hard-packed sand on the west side of the pavement and 2 feet of sand on the east side of the pavement, making the area to walk, run, bike 16 feet wide. It is not necessary to close the 4 traffic lanes on the Great Highway in order to accommodate the amount of people using and wanting to use it for recreation. They are using it without difficulty when vehicles are driving on it. The elimination of vehicles driving on the highway has resulted in more greenhouse gases closer to people. The 17,600 to 19,900 vehicles per day that use the highway to drive nonstop for 2 miles pre-closure now flood the nearby surface streets with intersections at every block for 15 blocks in front of sidewalks full of pedestrians, children playing, seniors, and the disabled. These vehicles, consisting of big rigs, groups of dirt bikes and motorcycles of 100 or more, vans, buses, cement mixers, trucks, and cars, have brought noise and excessive carbon emissions within a few feet of the impacted population rather than far away along the edge of the city. Science says there are more greenhouse gases produced from stop-and-go traffic than from steadily moving traffic. As shown in these photos of collisions from traffic diverted from the upper Great Highway to the lower Great Highway, a great highway open to vehicles driving on it is much safer for our environment and community than a closed one. The last time the San Francisco Fire Department responded to a collision on the upper Great Highway was in 2017, and the last fatality was in 2005. There exists no safer road in San Francisco on which vehicles may travel. And while vehicles are using the highway, pedestrians are more likely to walk directly to and from the beach in a straight line in the crosswalks and avoid walking and climbing on the dunes. We need your help to protect this area. We need you to join with us, as the Sierra Club has done, to demand an environmental impact report done by an independent agency before closing the Great Highway. We need you to add your voices through emails to the Board of Supervisors and Mayor, to the environmental organizations you are members of, to the Rec and Park Commissioners to support our efforts against commercialization of this once quiet 2-mile section of pristine beach and wildlife sanctuary. For more information, please email info@openthegreathighway.com. Thank you so much for your time and attention to present today.